when things go wrong or there's hurdles, there's two types of people. There's either the ones that are going to triumph and jump over that fucking thing, or they're going to stop, halt, and just ultimately get worse. So at the end of the day, I'm that type of person, you're that type of person, and we just kind of keep, hurdling over those road marks, and we keep moving forward.
I would encourage people to, check out some of the work of Ryan Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure many of your listeners are familiar with him. He talks a lot about Stoic philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
He has a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And I think that, this is a great time to practice some stoicism. These are a lot of theories that have been brought about by, famous emperors and things like that of Roman Empire, Marcus Aurelius being the most famous. And he had a book that he wrote to himself. So kind of, again, going back to this idea of like interviewing yourself. Well, when they went back and they looked at this book, they were like, wow, this is amazing. He wanted to like burn it before he died and stuff like that, but they wouldn't let him. They were like, no, man, people need to see this.
Yeah.
This is some really outstanding stuff. But really, the reason why the book is written, like the reason why his notes and it's called meditation, the reason why it's written so well is because it's written to himself, and it's because he was super lonely. Like, because he was the ruler of the world. He could do anything. He could have whatever woman he wants. Mm-hmm. He could do anything from a financial standpoint that you could possibly think of or dream of. I mean, he had like slaves and whatever else. Like he had access. He could access anything he wanted. He was the ruler of one of the greatest empires of all time, mm-hmm. and he chose to utilize that time to make himself better. Gotcha. And he chose to recognize the fact that the only thing that we have rule over is our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And so I think that this is a great time to practice that. You can check out Daily Stoic. You can check it out on YouTube. There's a lot of great information, but this is a really awesome time to get into some of these practices of just trying to think about, okay, well, that's not so great, but then there's this. Okay, that's not so great, but then there's that. Okay, I went to the grocery store not too long ago, and it's a place that I frequent. And they said, oh, how are you doing? How's everything going with the quarantine and stuff? I said, you know what? I said, it's amazing. I get to spend so much time with my kids. Yep. And she just was like blown back by that. She goes, you are the first. She's like, everyone's been complaining about their kids. And I said, hey, you know what? Kids are a pain in the ass. We all are in full agreement of that. But I said, this is wonderful, because if my kids were younger, I would have a different perspective. My son is 16 and my daughter's 12. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're 8 and 4. That's when you pull your hair out and go crazy. But anyway, yeah, it's up to you to think about, how are you going to interpret everything that's going on. And it's something I've been really studying a lot lately, is reinterpretation of how I think about things. Even think about death. Like, how bad is death? I don't know. Like, death is let's use an example. Like my oldest brother, he died. He was bipolar. He had a lot of addictions, right? So if we're able to pull back a few layers, if we're able to kind of like zoom out a few layers, and we're able to look at facts, then it's a lot easier to have a conversation with somebody about it. If I'm talking to you and you had a drug addiction, and I can say, Phil, man, I got something to share with you. My oldest brother, he was bipolar. He didn't know how to deal with it. He had a tough time coping with the ups and downs of life. His highs and lows were higher and lower than most people. Mm-hmm. And he didn't really know that until he was older, and he got addicted to drugs. He was trying to self-medicate, stuff like that. You know what, Phil, I think it'd be good for you to, go and see a doctor, go see a professional, because maybe there's some underlying reason why you're attracted to these drugs. Maybe there's something else going on that you're not aware of that makes this a whole different thing to tackle than what you thought. It's different than you just being like, oh, I'm done. I'm not going to do that shit anymore, right? Yeah. And so, but if you think about it from a factual perspective, my brother died. He was 38 years old. Wow. That's a very common age. It's a mid-30s thing. Wow. It's not, everyone who's bipolar doesn't die at that same age, but it's it's an age where you start to have a lot of realization. You're like, wow, I'm over 35. My friends are married. My friends have kids. My friends have this. My friends have that. Why don't I have those things?
Mm-hmm.
It makes you feel very lonely. It makes you feel very depressed. And then, you know, the issue with the drugs was just, it was cyclical. You know, he would try to come off them the best that he could. But again, if we're to look at the facts, it's like, how many people are addicted to drugs? A lot of people are addicted to drugs. How many people suffer from bipolar disorder? Millions of people suffer from bipolar disorder. And in fact, it has never really been something that they could eradicate. They don't have like anything to really, when it comes to mental health in this country, it's a very tough thing to solve. It's a very tough thing to help. Some people get better and some people don't. And they don't seem to really 100% know. They know a lot, but they don't know 100% on what to do. And so when you start to think about it in those terms, it's a lot easier to deal with. Even somebody who got abused as a kid or something like that, you could say, well, you know, man, that is awful. Like, I cannot think of a word. There's like not that many things that are as bad as child abuse, right? Like child abuse, rape. I think we can agree, like, man, those are, man, absolutely horrific things, right? However, those things happen. They happen to a lot of people, and who knows why that person did that to you? I don't know. I don't have the information on why they did it. You'll probably actually never learn why they did that to you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right? And you start to kind of boil down the facts and you say, okay, well, I have to deal with this. Now I have a wife and kids myself. I need to figure out, how am I going to pull my shit together and be a good, outstanding citizen, be a good father, be a good role model, be a good functioning part of society? Because what are your other options?